All right, welcome to the Poorly Played podcast. You're joined here with Mitch and John.
Hello.
So this podcast, we want to get through and play some older games. So we grew up playing the PS2, Xbox, GameCube era. We're both PS2 people, but made bulk of our gaming when we were teenagers was through the Xbox 360 and PS3 era. So we're going to use this podcast to have sort of a book club of games, a game club, if you will, um, focusing on one game per month, doing a deep dive into it, playing it for that month, and talking about it. We're doing this as a way to get through older games that we've been interested in for a while, and essentially just shits and gigs, as there's not much in terms of podcasts in this area, and even YouTube. It's a rather small example as well. So with YouTube, uh, want to credit G-Man Lives, someone that plays a lot of older stuff and does some essays for it. Mind Pulp, it's two blokes that get together and take the piss out of some dumb games and have fun with it. So some live plays there. And Psyched Plays is a guy that just focuses on PS2 games as such. And then Reddit, if you go through the subreddit Patient Gamers, there's people specifically talking about some of these games. So you're not allowed to play anything within the last year. And then the Xbox Game Pass have a game of the month that they play as well. Doesn't have to be old, but they do have a sort of throwback into there as well. So yeah, keen to get into some older Xbox 360, PS3, and maybe some PS2 Xbox games as such as well. But doing that. So we've talked about why it's our favorite area. I'm going to go through some of our favorite games of the 360 PS3 era. I have mine. They're going to be very similar to John's because we grew up playing these games together.
Very similar. Very similar.
Very similar. Fallout 3, I played that first on the PC, but I've replayed it many times. Just the atmosphere is awesome. First foray into some open world games. Borderlands 2, dumb humor. John and I have played that together a whole bunch as well. And then Halo Reach, we had many a nights where we start playing the campaign and multiplayer of that as well. So, what are your favorite games of that era, John?
Very, very similar to yours, Mitch. Fallout New Vegas, though, is my preferred out of the two. I just have spent so many hours playing that game over and over. I've modded it, done all that fun stuff, but I always remember the first playthrough. Borderlands 2 again. I still play that game to this day. It's hooked me actually a little bit more in the last couple of years. I've noticed. I've learned really how to farm it. But just the co-op days back in the day compared to Borderlands 1, very different. Halo 3, though, as well, compared to Reach, there's a few standout moments from our childhood of trying to land a Hornet in the one mission near the end of the game on one of the scarabs and try and pick the other
Scarab
person up to
hunting.
get away, scarab hunting, and we ran that drill so many times. And I put a little
Oh,
bit of an obscure one here for my last game because I put four down because I didn't read it was three. Ratchet and Clank Crack in Time is the only PS3 title effectively on this list because the rest are on Xbox. Probably the best of the future trilogy games, but just really recommend that Crack in Time if you really just want a fun game to jump into.
so today, January, and the first of the podcast here, January game of the month, we have settled on Sleeping Dogs. So we're playing it now in 2024. Had you played this game before, John?
I played it a little bit when we got it for free back on Xbox Gold, maybe what, 2015, 16?
Yeah, that was the definitive edition
Uh,
that came out with
that
Xbox
was the
Gold.
definitive, and I don't remember playing it on the 360, but I know like a few of yous played it.
So I've
But
I've still got it. I can see it in my field of view right now. Sleeping Dogs A and Z edition for down here in Australia. It's 2012, 2012. I should have fact checked this. I'm fairly sure it was 2012 when it came out. But I think I bought it straight up day one or opening weekend for that matter, because basically sold as um, GTA in Hong Kong with some melee combat and stuff like that. So yeah,
mm,
I'd beat it back in the day. I got the achievement for doing over 50% of what the game has to offer. So some memories, but definitely worth replaying it now so I could refresh those memories because there was a lot of areas I missed. Now, do you know much about the development of this game?
I don't actually, but you did allude to something I think a week ago when we were having a sort of a pre-chat
Yeah,
about the
so
podcast. It was pretty
um,
interesting, I found actually.
some original GTA clones, and I'll call them GTA clones because I think they're very similar. But um, True Crime New York and no Gangs of New York or True Crime New York, I think it's True Crime New York and True Crime Streets of LA. They were GTA-like games, I had actually never played them. I know of them, just like I know of a lot of games that I've never played. That's the Eternal Quest of the Backlog and all those games out there. But I'm fairly sure that this was in development as the third in that trilogy to be some type of um, true crime Hong Kong. But I don't know if the development went under or shifted or got bought out or something like that. So they already had some groundwork ready. And out of that grew Sleeping Dogs. So cool little tidbit of how it came to be. Now, bit of background about Sleeping Dogs, or a synopsis, we will, so people know. Setting in Hong Kong, gameplay is third-person action game, drive cars, shoot guns, punch people. Your GTA type, right? I think it's in the vein of a GTA clone. GTA
Yeah,
4
I'd say
clone.
it to be. Yeah.
And it would have come out, not that far, a year before GTA 5. So before that. Now, we're going to break down our discussion in the form of gameplay. So our thoughts on the gameplay. Story. We'll break down the story. Everything's fair game, spoiler-wise. The game's been out over 10 years. If you haven't played it and you're scared about the story, what have you been doing for 10 years? Tough shit. Some highlights. We're going to talk about various points that we really enjoyed in the game. How does it hold up? So being a game that is just over 11 years old, it was the end of 2012 it came out. How does it hold up with graphics, the generational gameplay as a product of its era? How long we spent on it. So we want to play all these games to completion, but we're not forcing ourselves to 100% the game. So we got lives. we got,
Yeah.
This is the point
If you want to watch 100%, go watch The Completionist or whatever that guy's name is.
Yeah. If you want that, like, this is a way for us to get through our backlog, just picking a game, going on it. So we're just getting what we want out of it before we just kill it and hate games. And then at the end, I'll tell you how you can play it. So how to actually get the game, where the availability is, what it costs, all that, and an overall verdict. Gameplay. Do you want to start us off, John?
Oh, I can start us off. I'm going to just flat out say it at the start. Sleeping Dogs' gameplay, I think, suffers from trying to be a lot of different things at once in a lot of cases, but
Yeah.
the things it does well, it does really well. My first point I wrote down is it's buggy, very buggy.
What you have
In a
buggy?
very if I get the shorts done, people will see a few glitch compilations that I was putting together for this. That just some of the pedestrians and the cars and the driving. There was one bit near the end of the game where I was just driving down and there was all these exploded cars on the road, and I'm like, what's going on here? But I'll start from sort of the scratch and like probably the cusp of it. I felt the melee combat in the game is actually really fun. There's a series of upgrades
It's the
that you
highlight.
collect as part of it. It's the highlight. There's like a bit of a collectathon aspect of the game, and one part of it is to upgrade your melee to make the main character Wei Shen, the top dog, like Shaolin monk effective that what he is. And through these series of upgrades, you upgrade your combos. The combos then do more damage. One of the final upgrade for the melee combat is like this Ip Man counter where you punch the dude like 15 times in the chest and smack him back, and it's just like it's the best move in the game, and you get bonus points for doing that. Um, the melee combat, as I said, really was the highlight of it compared to what I found the gun combat to be quite clunky on a lot of cases. I don't know how you felt about it, Mitch, but a lot of times when I'm hiding behind cover, because of course the cover shooter as well, in a lot of instances,
Yeah.
you'd get a gun, and unless it was a certain set piece of the game, you'd run out of ammo super quick, and then you just back to beating the shit out of people, which
You see,
I liked.
you see,
Like
it's
that.
funny you mentioned that with the gun combat. I don't think you're meant to play it like that as a cover shooter. Um, it it's not that fine tuned of aiming, even the blind fire and stuff like that. I reckon your blind fire suppressed, but what I liked of the gun combat was your slow mo vaulting, your disarming
Yep.
vaulting.
Yep.
So the game has a feature that if you got your cover, you can shoot, you can aim, stuff like that. But they're always hiding and everything. So when you vault over and press your left trigger to aim, you go slow mo. And I think that's what you're meant to be doing. I think you're meant to be running around the whole time, slow mo shooting, cover, vaulting over, knocking a guy back, shooting him in the face point blank. And I never had an ammo problem because I was running around the whole time picking up their guns. So I don't know. If you thought it
Yeah.
was clunky, I think you may have. But that's the thing. It's not made. They show you the vaulting feature, but they don't promote it in the sense that you're actually meant to be moving the whole time. I think that was me just. This is how I'm going to play the gun combat, and I'm just going to play balls to the walls. Let's go! Like,
See, and that's an interesting one because to bring up the thing about the gameplay, which factors a little bit into the story, which we'll talk about in a bit. That there's two different point values that you get assigned. There's cop value, like cop score, and triad score. And a lot of the melee combat influence and shooting combat is the gameplay. Actually, the whole combat element influences your triad score at the end of the missions, which I thought was cool. So the more you shot people in the face, the more you broke their legs and stuff like that in combat, the more points you would get, which would then get you further triad upgrades. There's like 10 upgrades you could get for the game, and they obviously upgraded certain elements like more melee damage. There's a whole melee combat with weapons as well. I thought the weapons were kind of cool, actually. They were
just
when
getting
they
the nade launcher, just shooting people. Doof, 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 doof.
the
Any mission
grenade
where you got
launcher
that,
was
they
fun.
just launch
Yep,
cars,
yep.
blow them up.
I think there was one mission. It's near the end where you have infinite grenade launcher,
Yeah, that was a fun mission.
and that was such a fun. When I played that mission, I was genuinely like smiling ear to ear. I was like, "This is fun. Like this is sort of like a bit of a power fantasy of like this is a proper gang war." But I'm clearly the superior being
So you mentioned
in this element.
the cop score and the
Yeah, yep.
triad score. The triad score I found was really easy to build up. Like you said, just punch people. The cop
Mm-hmm.
score of the first mission, where like I was driving and cop score was a thing, I got less than one. I hit everything.
Yeah.
I had civilians jump in the way of my car, and it just goes innocent killed, and you lose like so much because your triad score starts from 0, your cop score starts from 100, and it's like damage minimization for your cop score and how much you fuck people up in your triad score. Um,
Yeah.
But I found it very hard to complete a mission with full cop score, unless it was the cop centric specific missions that you're just meant to
Mm-hmm.
run through and just smack people up and just clear an alley. The main missions, cop score like never 3-star, never. I don't know if you had the same problem.
I reckon there was honestly maybe just one or two of the main missions where I maxed out the cop score.
Yeah,
And I'll tell you what, there was probably no driving in those
yeah. As
missions.
soon as you drive, it's just like, oh, you hit a pole, bad, bad, bad. Don't do that.
And I'm gonna get this like out of the way. The driving I find sucks in
Yeah.
Sleeping
So
Dogs.
that's something I wanted to talk about. The racing. I shot away super quick. So in the racing, this game is littered with open world everywhere. You got street races, you got cockfighting you can bet on, you got cop missions, favors, stuff like that. It's all mixed. Racing. I started it. I'm like, I don't mind this. I found it stupidly easy to pull
Mm-hmm.
away from them, and even hit gaps. Like I was feeling like Max Verstappen just flying through people, because you just easy. But then you hit like half a pole and you spin out, and the drift comes to a stop. Yeah, the car mechanics just weren't there in
Yep.
terms of racing,
Yep.
but the car mechanics were there with the vehicle combat, and that's
Yep.
the what I had at 3 prong of the gameplay. The melee combat, which we talked about, if your progression, um, it's sort of Batman-y esque of punch, 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 counter, grab, the three simple areas there. The gun combat, which we talked about, and yet the vehicle combat was, I think, a highlight of this game.
I would agree with that actually. I very thoroughly enjoyed a lot of the vehicle combat. I love the slow-mo aspect of it in a lot of the instances. Shooting tires out and watching the enemy triads
How
or even
that was just
fellow police
endlessly fun,
officers
wasn't it?
further.
You're
It
just
was
chasing
just
people.
fun.
You just aim for the tire, and the slow mo, the car just flips, and you like all you have to do is just pop 3 bullets into the tire, and it just flies and rolls, and you feel on top of the world, just shooting people, ramming cars, hijacking cars.
Mm-hmm. The action hijack
Yeah,
was also quite fun in that regard as well, of just being able to, your car's a bit damaged or, you're sick of the car you're in right now. You just jump into another one, take off. Uh, there was one element of gameplay, I don't know how much of you did it, Mitch, where you had to hijack, like, these, like, money trucks and
I
take them back.
I didn't see the point after 3 of them.
So I did the first tutorial one, and I was like, no, enough of this. I don't want to do this anymore. I completed a lot of the favors and things like that, just the random events. Those who've played like Red Dead Redemption, GTA, once again, Grand Theft Auto S games from Rockstar, they have the random events that pop up. And in Sleeping Dogs, it could just be as simple as walking into a store and beating the living shit out of some drunk dude for the shop owners, or it could be picking up one of your triad boys, getting the cops on you, and having to then get the fucking cops off of you, which was a nightmare in itself a lot of the time because of how bad the driving is.
Over and
But the
over and over,
over and
basically.
over. But the gameplay loop of the three core things Mitch has brought up actually did provide quite a lot of fun throughout the game to me. Um,
So I
as I said,
find that the main missions mostly highlight that, but then those side content, it gets boring quick with it. If you like the combat, some of the cop missions are fun, the
mhm.
drug busts, but I just didn't find the reward value out of doing them. In terms of the progression, like with the favor of getting face value. So face value unlocks more cars, more clothing, um, which the cars make you go around quicker. The clothing builds more face and some damage buffs and stuff like that. But I just didn't find there was enough reward from those. And the gameplay loop, I didn't want to tie myself out of it. So I find that the main missions were a good showing of the gameplay loop. And doing much more past that was potentially stretching that a bit too thin, that gameplay loop.
Mm. I can definitely say that. How it would be it comes very repetitive in a lot of instances, and there's a one gameplay element, the surveillance systems. You got to go to these whole different areas where there's suspected tri activity. You just find them just by driving around the map.
Yeah, the drug busts, yeah.
The drug bust, exactly. Yeah, the drug bust. You rock up, you beat a few people up. There was one that I got killed on twice because I didn't realize they had guns. So I died the first time because I ran straight in. They shot me to pieces. Second time, I tried to disarm the first guy, and it was just a carbon copy. Pieces. So what I ended up doing was I went back when I had a gun from a mission I finished, and just took him out with that one. But then it expects you to go back to your sorry, hack a camera.
Yep.
Sorry,
Find the camera box.
um, find the camera box, hack the camera box in 6 attempts, trying to get a 4-digit code, which honestly was a bit easier than I thought it was gonna be.
Did you fail them?
Um,
I never failed one.
I failed one, and it wasn't for one of the It was just some random one in a
Yeah.
mission somewhere. It wasn't even part of the drug buff because I was like, I have to do this. I'm like, can I just fail it and he does it anyway? And he's like, nah. But the rest of them, they're pretty simple. It's just like a bit of trial and error, and if you're not honestly stupid, you can get it done pretty quick.
It's padding. It's padding.
Um,
It's a system to
it's
pad.
padding,
Mm.
exactly. But then what really did mean about those is you'd have to then go from that drug bust,
Back to your
where it
hotel.
was, back to your hotel room to then sit on a computer, and I'd go into the surveillance system, go to the specific area you're trying to bust, and then go make sure there's triad activity in it. And then you go in through a like surveillance camera. You got to watch some drug deal go down, and you
But
got to bust who you think's the guy.
that's not even a
And it's
challenge.
always the same
It's
guy.
always the same
Like,
guy. You're like, yeah, him,
and
right there, black top, no hat.
it's clearly that dude. Oh, who's the bad guy? Probably the guy who just shot the guy in the face. He's
Yeah.
probably the bad dude. Like, pretty obvious, right? Like, but it was just this really persistent activity that just had too many instances of.
Yeah, I didn't do
Um,
them all. I gave up.
I,
And
I probably did maybe a third of them, and I was like, yeah, no, I get it. I don't
and
need to do this.
I think the low light of that was the force mission, your lucky mission, where you had to go through and fuck with the guy who thinks he's very lucky. And it was just a culmination
Mm,
of all the most boring padding, lock picking, unscrewing the vent, um,
yep,
the
yep.
number one. It's just like it just pads the length, some of these things. Um, and I get for pacing, yeah, you have that, but no, it definitely felt that in the gameplay, like those little mini gamey type things. They weren't it. They weren't it
Yeah.
at all.
And actually, it's funny you say that because back on like the major, when you're doing like the particular files, so there's the cop sort of activities where you rock up and you might bust an alleyway full of people, but then they had these case files that you helped Officer Tang with,
They were
which
good.
goes back into the story. They were fun, like they were a bit of detective work. So when you were doing that unscrewing stuff and planning bugs and things like that, I was like, okay, this is what a undercover police officer, which is what Wei Shen is. We should have. I don't know if we mentioned that. That's what he's doing in this instance. He's actually finding this data. He's using his cop skills to help bust someone through the police force, through the justice system. He's not just rocking up and going full triad rules on it and just killing people outright.
Yeah.
Um, so in that element, when it helped tell the story, I liked them, but it didn't happen enough, I think, to warrant how many times they were in the game. Is my, I think, final piece
Hmm.
on those damn mini games that you had to do.
Did you play much?
There's a few
Did you sing
other.
much karaoke?
I did a couple. There's a few favors that you have to do karaoke singing for, and there was one in particular where you actually have to get a worse score as possible. Did you do that one?
Nah,
It's
nah.
it's about 3/4 of the way through the game, sort of when you've unlocked the top part of the map, and that's where you're starting to do a lot more missions.
Yeah.
You go to the K box there, and some guy's like, "Oh wait, I need a hand. Like, can you help me prove to my girl that real men can't sing?" And up till that point, every karaoke mission you've done, you've wanted to like top score it.
Yeah. Nail
And
those
so
notes.
suddenly, now you have to do as shit as you can, and to sit there for 4 minutes singing "Hit Me with Your Best Shot" as terribly as it was "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" was the one song I did, and just flicking my analog stick up and down. I was like, oh god, there is so much better things I could be doing. I'm not gonna get this 4.5 minutes back of my life.
Yeah, that's what I
So,
felt with some of the karaoke and some of the activities. But
hmm,
um, what other little gameplay quirks did I like? So we've talked about the main three combat like instances or ways of combat. They're the best. One thing I think that this game did really well, and I'm amazed that it didn't do it more. I think GTA 5 was one of the next games that did it. But just pushing down on the left stick to cycle through current objectives um, was awesome.
yeah,
You don't have to go through your map, mark it, know where it is. You just click that left stick down and you had the option of this race, your main mission, your case file, um, this event, this favor, and it just automatically mark it on your map. I thought that was an awesome feature within the game that adds to the gameplay of
yeah,
it and you integrating in this world. Um, the gameplay being in Hong Kong, I think that also adds to it. So it really only shows up in some of the favors, some of the events, and then the main story, and you're chasing people through the rooftops and stuff like that. So it's like a bit of hardcore parkour type stuff. Well, not even hardcore, you're just mounting walls and stuff, but you press A
yeah.
to go over it as you run. But that makes the chase scenes and the main story missions feel really fun to play. Like, I don't think there were many missions where I was like, yeah, why was that there? The lucky mission that I mentioned before, where you just fuck with a guy's house and it just had all your mini games in one, um, was there. But I think every other main mission, the gameplay was on point. Like, you were having fun playing it, which I think is the main point that I wanted to hit with the gameplay, that it all came together and you had fun doing it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Like some of the, some of the favors are redundant at the end of the day. But you're right. When it came down to the main missions, when you're doing all the set pieces in the game, they really showed off what they were looking for in those. Until you mess up the A press on a parkour thing and you lose cop score for
Cop
being
score,
clumsy.
dude, you clumsy idiot.
Okay, bro. Like I'm chasing this dude, and it's a pretty clunky setup in the controls.
Yeah.
And Wei Shen, a lot of the time I felt when he was running was moving through sludge in a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
instances. He just didn't. And but then the second the melee combat happens, you're right. It's like Batman. It flows so well. So maybe a bit of the budget, or however they program sort of the game to make Wei feel very powerful when he's in melee, but just actually when he's sort of running around,
Yeah.
he's still like an athlete, like definitely. But that's not where they focus their time on. There's I don't know when we're going to bring them up, but did you do many of the sort of relationship quests
So I forgot
in
about
the
that most
game?
of the game. I did one where
Yeah,
it was the blonde chick, can't remember her name, and you went and you snuck into like the zoo thing. I forgot about it. I'm like, where are these people? I'm like, oh yeah, should probably just call them and you organize dates and they're all just like, oh my god, wait, we want to fuck you. Like,
yeah, yeah.
but I only did the one.
So I did. I'm pretty sure all of them. Um, because I was very interested to see how they would take the sort of relationship quest. And was it like a proper RPG where you could continue to go? Were there more missions for them? If you fucked up along the mission, was there different things like different options you could pick? This and that. No, every single mission from the favors had a set outcome,
Hmm.
which I do get. I That's the way they wanted to take it from a story development. The first one, the blonde chicks. There's two blonde chicks. There's Amanda, who's like the first one you meet. She's like
The
really
American.
early on in the game.
The
The
American.
American, who you take to the temple. You go on like some fun stuff around Hong Kong, and that's a good way to just sort of help you. It's effective. The way I see that, it's like, hey, this is an open world. Like, drive around, go see some stuff. There's some cool areas that you you'll probably go back there later in the game, like the temple you go back to and stuff like that. But there's things you go around. She introduces you to the melee upgrade thing, where, as I
Oh
mentioned
yeah,
before, it's a
that's a
collectathon.
main mission. Yeah,
That's a main mission. But
yeah,
the other ones, they're sort of tacked on as part of main missions. Like I think the second one is Tiffany. She's the K box, the
yeah,
first K box
yeah. That's a main mission
stewardess
as
you
well.
meet,
Yeah,
and you got to sing karaoke with her, and that's her mission. And then that's it. That's the date. You just sing karaoke for her. Then another one,
but you can call
I
them
can't remember the.
after.
You can call them. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can literally straight away call them, be like, "Yo, what's up?" And then they just you go on another. You don't go on any more dates after you've done that mission though, but you unlock elements of the mini map. So you find like the lock
Oh,
boxes, the collectibles, and stuff like that.
you do
Rock up
too.
on the
It
mini
showed
map.
me lockboxes came into no healing shrines popped up on the map
I think it's
after the
healing.
date with
Yeah,
Amanda.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Which, if you're going for that 100% completion, you're gonna do them. So you would want to get those out of the way first.
but
The
if you're
second
not
you can,
after 100%, they're meaningless to the point, aren't they?
then they are completely meaningless.
Provide nothing.
They provide nothing. There's one you race some Russian woman in a parkour race, and then you just bang her on the rooftops.
Where you
But
dirty
then
dog.
actually she comes in later when you're helping her with a missing persons thing.
Yeah.
And I found it very interesting that there was no change in the dialogue after I'd done the favor quest with her. When I called her to when I did the quest, she spoke to me like it was only the first or second time I was talking to her, not like we'd actually had done this relationship quest.
Yeah.
And once again, I get that you do them when you can and stuff like that, but I would have liked to have maybe seen a little bit more progression with that stuff. Purely just from just some extra fun stuff in the missions you could do. You sort of just unlock everything after one.
Yeah.
But then I think it would run into like the category of there's too much dilution through a lot of the secondary objectives. Like with the favors, there's also events, which some of them are really fun, and some of them fucking suck. Like the one Mitch and I both had a fucking problem with, didn't we? It's called Death by 1,000 Cuts,
Worst mission
and
I've
this
ever
is
played in any game.
worst mission in the game, hands down. You got to beat 30 dudes. It unlocks maybe an hour or two, maybe I think it's about 4 hours, give or take, into the game. This mission unlocks. You're gonna have no upgrades. You're gonna have no health upgrades. Like you're still at that point. You might have got maybe 5 healing shrines and stuff like that, and you get thrust into this combat encounter against 30 dudes, 30, 30 fucking dudes in this mission, all with poisoned knives. If they were just regular knives, it'd be fine. But they're poisoned, so if you get hit once, pretty fucking easy to do if you're sort of haphazardly trying or you just get clipped through the combat. It happens. You get poisoned, your screen starts turning black. What happens when your screen starts turning black and starts going a bit grey shade? You don't see the counter option. And
Yeah, it
because the melee
disappears.
attackers do like a double swing move, it's really hard to dodge. You can dodge the first one, but then you never dodge the second one, is what I found.
Because you're expecting to sidestep it, but they always do the
Yep.
follow up with the cleaver and the knife, and it is like, yeah, it's a very annoying move.
Very annoying. And I went back. It was the last event I did before I finished the main story because I'm like, that's it. Fuck these dudes. I'm gonna rock up there. I've got all the upgrades. I still failed 3 times before I beat it. And I think the way I beat it was there's one upgrade you get for the it's one through one of the things that you do. and you can you tackle people
And
and
you
you
disarm them.
disarm them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how I found was an easy way to sort of cheese that mission a little bit. And for a mission you unlock so early in the game, the fact that I beat it near the end of my playthrough, I don't think is very fair on new players coming in.
Yeah, I don't know why it
And
unlocks
it's
so early. You don't have any equipment or skills to match
mm,
that.
mm, yep. And when I was playing it, and this is when I'm going to reveal this. That's the mission that made me quit the game back when I was playing it like 10 years ago. Whenever I first played it, because I remember getting so frustrated, probably losing it 20 times in a row. Because when I loaded up my old save file, what was the mission I was on? Fucking death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's it. And it really fucked me off. And I actually then missed out on a quite enjoyable game, I think, in the long run, on just one mission. So, pro tip, do all the melee upgrades first, then go do that mission, and you'll have a good time. If you don't, good luck. And you're probably a better gamer than me if you beat it.
All right. So that's our thoughts on gameplay and various parts there. We're going to get to more highlights later on, even though we've probably covered some of them in that section. We're going to move on to the story. And I don't think the story is going to have a massively involved discussion. This is a B grade movie plot. It goes balls to the wall, 11 out of 10. Like, Wei Shen's the angriest motherfucker you've seen. He's very one dimensional. He's just like,
Yep.
oh yeah. So Wei Shen, undercover cop, trying to break in because he grew up around these people back in the day, so he's got an easy in. And then all of a sudden, like, he really enjoys being in the triad, and like I kept thinking it's going to go, is he in too deep? Is he actually of two minds? No, no, no. He's full blown good person cop. By the end of it, you find out I just it's fun. I find it fun, but like I reckon they were thinking about potentially going one way of, oh, is he in too deep? Is he actually want to be the triad? And that's what one of the characters keeps alluding to. Like, you are like this person more than you are a cop. But by the end, Wade's just like, no, 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 no. We got him. We got him. I'm a cop. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
Do you agree? Any thoughts on that?
I would pretty much fully agree with what you just said there. I have said to a few people that who I knew I was playing it. I was like, it plays like a Hong Kong crime movie, which I really rate. It's so, as you said, Mitch, it's so balls to the wall in some bits. You're like, there's some of the facial expressions in the cutscenes with Wei. You look like he's gonna snap a brain cell at one point, and he does in multiple instances.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're definitely spot on with the whole. Which way was he gonna go at one point? There's one bit, sort of, it's like the penultimate mission or close to enough, where, as we said, spoilers don't matter. So you rescue your best friend Jackie, and he's getting buried alive on this island that, you see, if you look on the map, you see this island, but you don't, you could go there by a boat, but there's nothing on it. And it's literally designed one section at the end of the game where you do this sweet ass boat chase to the island to rescue Jackie because you find out he's there. And then you're like, cool, bang. Turns out he gets captured a bit earlier in the game. That's why you hadn't seen him for a couple of hours. And from there, you go to bed in your apartment. You wake up the next day, you call Jackie, and you go, oh, okay, this isn't Jackie. You rock up to the thing. The dude's been fucking hung, drawn, and quartered in the
Just
streets.
gutted.
And you're like,
You're just like, he's like,
just gutted.
yeah, I don't know if this is the job for me. I might get out. You're like, no, no, no,
Yeah.
you fucked.
The second he said that, I'm like, oh, this dude's dead, isn't he? Like, the moment literally as it plays like a movie, the moment someone says that, they're gone. Do I think it was too predictable? No, I actually really like the sort of, not twist, but I like how they did it. And at that point, how I was saying before, was it going to be like sort of an RPG? That could have been a good entrance for them to take it one or two ways, where Wei goes down the cop route and the way of justice, or does he become full triad and just completely blow up the 18K and Big Smile Lee and take him out without the guise of the law? And he takes it into his own hands, effectively. So maybe that was a bit of a fallback from the development cycle you were saying about before, that they just didn't quite know which way to go with it.
Hmm.
I still like I still actually really thoroughly enjoyed the story from start to finish. The 15 hours I pumped into it, also I liked it, and I
Um,
feel like I actually got something.
yeah, I had another note. I remember this from the first time I played it, and lucky I had played it before because you're talking about bugs. This is the main bug I had. Um, all the cutscenes during the wedding were not working properly. I don't know if
Oh
you had
yeah,
this as well, but it was like close-ups of half of their face, and it was just like shaking between the top right to top left of what should have been the frame. So it lessened the impact, but the wedding was a brutal moment where you've just made friends with your your local boss. I don't know, Red Pole. Was he Red Pole? Winston?
Winston's his name.
Was
Yeah,
he Red Pole?
Winston. Yeah, yeah, you're
Yeah.
part of like the Red Pole boys at the start
Yeah,
of
he
the show.
was.
Yeah.
You made mates with his missus, chasing down a wedding cake, and because someone's trying to steal the wedding cake was a funny, dumb moment. Um,
Mm, mm.
and then, um, yeah, Peggy was her name. The note here: you're chasing the cake van, and then you ended up needing to go get the black orchid or the black flower. So you just walk into the temple and start absolutely just stomping monks. I found was a very Hong Kong
Yeah.
like B grade thing. I'm just like, yeah, we're just chasing a wedding cake right now, and oh, you're a monk? I don't care. Kick you right in the face. I was laughing the whole time during that mission, and then only for the next mission to just brutally murder all those other people. Um, Parts of the story that I didn't like, I thought the pacing sort of died off in the last third. Um, Maybe I wasn't invested in the world as you were doing everything else, but I didn't really know who the characters were at some point. Like, what's his name? The actor agent who gets roles and he tells the chicks to like please these people and sort of coerces them stuff like that. I'm doing his missions. I'm like, who are you? Why am I doing this? Like, I don't know why I'm
Yeah.
driving to
Is
this
that is
location.
was that Ricky? Is that
Not Ricky.
dude?
Ricky was the good guy. Like the better part.
Ricky was the good guy, wasn't?
It was his
Yeah.
boss. And
Right. Yeah.
I should have
Ricky's boss.
yeah I should have written his name down, but I just don't know. I just didn't know what I was doing at that point, to be honest. We're working up. Uncle Poe just died. They're trying to pick the next leader and
Mm.
all that. And then it just sort of fuzzes a bit and we're just doing stuff. And I don't know why. And then 18K, we're just like, oh, fuck you. I don't like you. You're 18K. And we're just shooting other triad people. And I'm like, are we infighting here? We've pissed off Dog Eyes. He's done. We've got him for
Hmm.
organizing Winston's death. And like that whole arc was great. And then I think after the Dog Eyes arc, it just went a bit shit and didn't quite
It
make much
really,
sense.
yeah, it really opened up in a sort of negative way. I agree. Actually, that's a good way of putting it. Like that wedding part, and like the bit after it when Uncle Poe, you drag him to the hospital, which unfortunately he stays in for the rest of the game, and he doesn't get out. Which we'll get into in a little bit because one of my highlights actually the whole Uncle Poe story. But after that, you're exactly right. You become. There's one bit I think Way says to his handler, Raymond is the handler's name.
Yeah.
He goes, "I'm," and I think I quotes pretty much, "I'm fucking Winston now. Like you're trying to pull me out because you think I've done the job. I've taken down Dog Eyes or I've taken out part of the Red Pole Sung on Yi." But Way's correct. Like he's moved into this new position of being the local leader of sorts. But then all of a sudden, there's sort of no.
Direction.
It's just a straight. There's no direction. You just sort of suddenly become this thing. There's no like people standing up for you, people going against you. So you have to go like I'm that leader. He just assumes it, and it makes sense because you're the main character, and it's the way it's the story sort of progressing. But it just seemed quite quick
Yeah.
to happen.
So I find between the post, Winston and Uncle Poe stuff in the wedding and then the last few missions, it's just blurry and I wasn't quite enjoying the story. But then coming to the last few missions, when you find out
Mm,
that Pendrew's a
mm.
bit dirty, it all, I think you put a note here in the thing, it all ties it together. Like I found that those missions showed off the highlights of the game and geez, did the game finish on a bang. The boat chase where you ran onto a, um, fuel dock.
Oh, the fuel dock that was sick.
Yeah,
That
punch
was a
on. Boss fights against Ponytail. It just the double agent conspiracy, and you just become a weapon in the last couple missions. and it shows your progression. But like you're saying, have you earned that progression? Who knows? But the last ones, you're like, you've unlocked most of your powers, your abilities. You just you're in. And the last year, the game ends on a bang story wise. So majority of the story I felt was cohesive, enjoyable. Cutscenes were good, but there's just a chunk towards the latter third that I was like, eh.
Yeah, and it suffers that sort of like middle section game syndrome in a sense, where it starts off really strong. The first mission in Sleeping Dogs is probably enough to hook most people.
Hmm.
When you're running through, is it the streets of? It's not at Hong Kong at the start. It's a
No,
different
no,
place.
you ran through the docks. You're in Hong
Is it the
Kong
docks
still.
of Hong Kong?
Yeah, yeah.
Forgot. But you're running through the docks, and it's like the first major set piece of the game. You're doing all the parkour. It shows off that element of it. That like this is a big part of the game, and then it gets shunted away, the parkour and into certain parts. But that's okay. It's still there. And then first sort of couple of missions, while Way's getting introduced to the city's fun. The night market part is really fun at the start when you're going around like getting collection money, doing really
It
minuscule
sets the
gangster
scene
stuff.
and has
It
low,
sets the scene.
not low risk, but low profile.
Like this is generally like this is small time.
Grounded. It's
What you're
grounded.
doing at the moment. Yeah, great way of putting it. And then next thing you know, you're an international criminal,
Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
that's cool.
I think the story
Like
went a bit
it's
too large.
yeah. But then where do you go with the story? You have two games, just Sleeping Dogs 1 where it ends with maybe uh I don't know. There's one bit, I think sort of one of my favorite missions is near the end. I think it's the start of the last third when you're doing the funeral section and Pendrew, who's like sort of the main guy in charge of the FBI,
Just walks
rocks
off.
up and he's like, "That's it. We're arresting old mate here, who's like your boss, and like you sort of like him as a character." Takes him away, and then next thing you know, the 18K are right behind him, as Mitch said before. You find out he's a bit dirty in a sense, like why are they here? And then you start shooting up a cemetery. Like that's a cool mission. It really sets the scene of this has gone a bit beyond now at the start of the game of just getting some like protection money from this noodle man to having a gunfight for the Sun on Ye's honor and trying to like make sure it's staying together. But it just gets a bit over the place.
Yeah, so story's all right. I think we're sort of piecing together here, and there are definitely highlights of it, but it's not the main draw of the game.
Yeah. Well, what were some of your highlights? Mitch?
Yes,
You
good.
list off a couple.
So I've got sort of like three or sections. I'll keep it short and succinct of my highlights. There's an event called Shaolin Showdown. You would have played it if you did most of the events, and you just dress up in a monk outfit. I don't know if it's called something, or I don't know if it's the right term, but whatever. And you just fight a whole bunch of monks, and it goes, you need to defeat 15, and they come in waves of 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when you get close to that 15, the number just goes up 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, up to 40. And you're like, what's going on here? What? I didn't sign up for this. But then you get like a better like dragon punch ability, or like you've taken the dragon cola, because that's one of the buffs that if you go get some cola, you drink it, you get it. And you start one-shotting all these monks and you counter them and hit them. And I'm like, this is fun. So I found that to be one of my highlights. Did you enjoy that mission?
I did. I actually really did enjoy that mission. Particularly, as you said, the end bit when they all just start running out of the temple and you're like, oh, shit. Shit. Is this going to be another death by 1,000 cuts?
Yeah, I was like, we're in trouble here, but it actually turned out pretty good. Another part that I liked, a highlight, or just experience as such, is what I was alluding to before of he's a cop, but he was enjoying his time as a triad too much. I didn't take the exact data or find it of my kill count. I think there are some stats there, but holy man's a mass murderer. I like being a cop does not excuse half the shit you do in this game, and I'm laughing at it, which ties into my last sort of main enjoyment part, which is the environmental kills. So how you activate them, you punch a few times, you grapple them, and then shit will just shine up red around you, and you go to it. I threw a guy's head into an aircon unit and cut his head up. I killed a guy with a fish. I grabbed and picked up a fish. It's not an environment, but I whacked a guy with a fish. That was an achievement. There were hooks hanging around like the fish market. I just throw a guy into a hook. I'm like, that's brutal. I'd throw him into a TV. there's swordfish heads on the ground. I
Yeah,
picked him
I
up
was gonna
and
say, I
threw
hope you
him
saw the
on top of
swordfish
the
head one.
swordfish. I'm like, just because you're a cop, this is not a humane way of killing anyone. One of the last missions, there's hot plates, and I just smacked his head and held him down on a hot plate. I opened a fridge, smacked his head on a fridge. Table saws. I cut a guy up on a table saw. There's beams sticking out of the floor at the scaffolding and works. I'll just throw you on that. We're on the rooftop. Yeah, see you later. I'll throw you off the roof. Like, that's the 11 out of 10 stuff we're talking about. My kill count as a cop, you're not allowed to do it this way. You're not allowed. This is not good for a cop to do. If someone's shooting you, yeah, shoot it back. Whatever. That's self-defense. Throwing guy on swordfish heads, you are twisted, mate.
Yeah, you're fucking psycho, 100%.
So that's my main highlight is what I kept coming back to. I loved it when you start a new mission, and I'm like, ooh, that's a new environmental kill. What happens? Oh my god! As you just kill him in the most least humane way possible. And that's what I was saying before. The melee combat, the highlight, and what you keep coming back for is those environmental kills. They're my main highlights. Just short and succinct there, yeah.
Well, that was a big selling point of the game. I remember when it first sort of released, I like watching OG game trailers and like old school YouTubers like playing the game in the first couple of hours. They were showing off those environmental kills. Like,
yeah,
there were some top tier ones. One bit when you talk about the hot plates in that last mission when you're sort of fighting through the restaurant, I didn't get a single environmental kill in that section because what I did is I shot there's like one like the cash register part and it just blew up. That's actually how I killed Ponytail. I didn't even punch on with him. I just shot something randomly. Just next thing I know, it's checked off, completed. I'm like, oh, that was easy. I'll get to probably my main sort of highlight in a sec. But there's the one mission, Mitch, where at the end of the game, when what's the dude's name who's like the interrogator of the triads, and you get captured after Jackie gets done. And
no, I can't remember his name.
I can't remember his name either, but you're getting tortured.
Yeah.
And it shows off like Wei's psyche at that point. Like it's a really brutal scene. If you've played GTA 5, the torture scene in that is probably worse because you're doing it yourself. But it's on par with it. Like Wei gets things like his like femur drilled into at one point. Down his leg. He's getting cuts all over him. Like he's tied up.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Proper stuff. And you escape it by like crawling out because, of course, you know, the bad guys, they forget about you. And just it becomes like a bit of like a Die Hardy type escape from this like skyscraper.
You're stumbling, you're walking through like you're wounded.
And then you're a wounded warrior, and then at one point, Wei just like snaps out of his delirium and just starts beating shit out of people again.
I wrote a note down for that of the last mission or one of the last missions, Wei becoming a fucking mega weapon was what I wrote down.
Yeah. That's what he becomes. He really does that, and maybe it's like an adrenaline thing for him. But either way, it was such a fun because they turn it on its head completely. Because here you are, the entire game. Just top of the food chain, just any melee combat, unless like you just don't have a grasp of the controls, you're pretty much dominating in every encounter, even if they've got guns. As Mitch, you said before, you can still dive around, not get shot, move around, things like that. You can't do this in one scene. You're moving so slow, but you're getting all these really cool, like, environmental kills. Like, you slam a guy's head in the toilet and give him, like, a swirly in it.
Yeah, I did that.
They're all going on. Yeah. Like, all these really fun encounters that just lead up to this huge gunfight. Like, once again, putting everything together. But probably one of my biggest highlights of the game, and I know I spoke ill of the driving before, but I spoke pretty highly of the vehicle combat. During the missions, that you meet this character named Tang, I think, and he's like the Triads inventor. And there's one bit where I rocked up and it's like this orange car. I'm like, oh, is this a race? Let's check it out. No, you actually get this supercar, like a sort of Lamborghini-esque car that over a series of maybe 5 missions you do for him, you upgrade this car. And it starts off, it's just a really fast car.
I think I did the first one. It's the first mission of that where they're trying to smuggle it in and there's like 6 of them.
Yeah.
And they're detonating with each action hijack. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a cool opening scene for that car. That look how cool this car is. We're like smuggling it in. This like proper illegal gangster stuff. But like, this car's pretty cool. You should try and get a hand in this. And then throughout the missions, you procedurally upgrade it more and more. It does like more ramming speed, which the car ramming's really fun in the game and can really immobilize vehicles pretty easily. The next upgrade, you get an EMP, so you can just hold A down. We're playing on Xbox, and you just pulse, and next thing you know, every car around you, civilians included, just start swerving and just start crashing into shit. And it's really good for against cop races at the start because you don't have to kill them, so you can sort of you're role playing like I don't want to kill the cops, I don't want to ram them off the road. You
And
still
bam.
incapacitate them. You take them out in like a really like if Wei had that at his disposal, not wanting to obviously kill his fellow officers of the law, he would do that. But then in the last mission or the second last mission for him, the car gets hijacked remotely. Of course it does.
Hmm.
And that's when you learn there's two fucking Gatling guns on the car that have infinite ammo. So you're driving around the streets of Hong Kong just fucking absolutely blasting every car off the road with these chain guns that do way too much damage. It's like it becomes an on-rail shooter, and it was genuinely so enjoyable.
Yeah.
Just once again, just combining that vehicle combat with just absolute overkill. And then the final mission, I can't exactly remember what you do, but it's like everything gets put together. So you're driving around, you got to incapacitate triads and stuff like that. You get chased by the cops, and then to come back to the absolute fucking Chad that Wei is, the final thing he says to Tang, Tang's like, "Oh, do you like the car? Like, thanks for testing it for me." And Wei's like, "Yeah, do you know what my payment is?" And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "I get the car now. Fuck off." And you just drive off in the car, stealing it from the guy. This is his pride and joy. He spent billions of dollars in R&D, and Wei's like, "Nah, it's mine now. Get fucked." So good. That was like just such a fun chain of missions that, given a lot of the events in the game, like, oh, how is this gonna go? Really enjoyed.
See, I missed out on that. I
Few
played
of
the
my
first one, and I was like, "What? Why'd I lose this car? Where's this car gone?" And then I obviously just should have played more events and side thing.
yeah, and that it was there's a few things like that in the game. A few of my other highlights, and this I didn't write this down. I just thought of them then. Was the costumes actually in the game? I don't know how much the exotic costumes you bought from the night market vendor, but
Some.
there were a couple really good ones. The first one I bought was like the Wu Chang, like whatever it's called, like master. When your face value active, or your face meter activated, which is like the power up section,
Hmm.
uh, by doing enough damage, you started everything slowed down, like really, like a lot more than normal. And it was the whole effect was it impacts space and time. I'm like, that's cool. The next one I got after that was like the Lightning Warrior outfit, and you just got this huge sword, and you had like this full suit of armor on. So I ran
Hmm.
around that for most of the game, and just seeing Wei in the cutscenes wearing these stupid like costumes. He's supposed to be this super serious guy with so quality, and then like near the end of the game, you start getting into a lot of different costumes just as part of like the story.
Yeah,
And I'm
puts you
like,
in them automatically, doesn't it?
it puts you in them automatically. I'm like, where's my armor? Like,
I
where is this?
I had the big straw hat that glitched half the
Nice.
time. So when you walk through a door in a cutscene, it just wouldn't work properly, and you could only see
Yeah.
Wei's mouth and lower. So like he's trying to have the facial expressions, and you just don't see anything because the straw hat's covering everything. And I'm like, I know I've taken off. I'm like, this is a bit dumb. It's fun, but
Yeah.
a bit dumb.
Yeah, no, and there's heaps of other costumes. The did you actually here we go. Did you run out of money at all in the game, or did you finish the game with
I
too much money?
accumulated so much, and the first chance I got to buy a really good car, I spent all of it on that car. Because it was
Nice,
just
good
nicer to
idea.
zip around rather than hijacking cars and you're taking ages or waiting on a taxi for the fast travel system. I'm not sitting around waiting for the taxi. I just got the
Yeah,
best car I could afford, and it made getting around a lot easier. So,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
I found my face value was too far behind to spend the money most of the time.
Oh yeah. I think my first value only got to like rank 7 out of 9.
Yeah, I was 5 or something like
And
that because I stopped doing them.
but I didn't. I don't think I fast traveled once.
Yeah,
I think I went to get into a taxi to do it, and I accidentally hijacked the taxi. It's like, oh, I may as well just drive there.
yeah. So when you got sick of like going across all the islands, you just found a taxi and it just fast traveled you to thing like GTA 4. GTA 4 had already done that,
Mm,
not like it's a new feature.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, you just got in the taxi. It worked really easy when I was like sick of driving the same freeway over and over and over again because half of it's blocked off with bollards. So I'm like, taxi, get through.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I don't know why I never fast travel.
yeah, it worked out well. So we're jumping on the next part of how does it hold up, and I think we've covered most of the points that we wanted to um, get there with on your notes as well. Fun world to explore and cruise around in. Some data
Mm, mm.
textures. I think it's right in the open world era, so it's definitely a product of its time in terms of generation. That it is because now we're starting to see it with your Far Cry's and stuff like that. That it's just shit to do on a map, and that's probably why I didn't do it, and why I did do it more back when I played it initially in 2012. I did over 50% of the stuff. I enjoyed doing it. It's a product of its era of the open worldiness, but by sounds of it, you were right in the midst of it. Your Hong Kong crime movie, you were enjoying it. Is that right?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. Like, I didn't play it back in the day, so I really found myself enjoying it on a revisit on the game with a bit more, maybe just a different take on it, rather than playing it because it was the in game at the time or because I got it for free. Having a reason to play it definitely helped, but I did probably took me about 4 hours to get into the game. Once I saw past like what I mentioned about the dated textures and just like, oh, I'm just doing shit in a map. And I was like, actually, you know what? This game is really fun. A lot of the story is just a stupid story. It hooks you in, and it keeps you. If you really tailor your experience playing it to doing what you want to do in it, I think you get a lot out of it. And that's
So it
sort of where
is.
it goes.
It's an
Like
open world map game, but with a spin, and a spin
with
worth
a
seeing.
spin.
So with that, I spent roughly 11 and a half hours completing the main story plus some extras. How long did you spend?
About 15 hours it took me. I think I did a little bit more than you did. And but by after about 15 hours, honestly, I was a bit like, yeah, no, I'm glad I've done the main story. I'm a bit time to move on from this game.
Yeah, I felt the same after mine. We'll go to our rankings, and I think we're pretty sort of similar view here. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Like it's got stuff to see. Does it blow your socks off? No. Is it up there with the best of the whole generation? No, but there's far worse. So 7 out of 10. I enjoyed my time with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty right there with the 7 out of 10 as well. Throughout this whole today's podcast recording, I was thinking like, dude, do I rank it high? Do I rank it low? No, I think a solid 7 out of 10. A few elements would make the game better, but beggars can't be choosers at
And
the end of the day. So if you want a fun game, there you go.
and we'll highlight that this is a proper person 7 out of 10, not IGN worst game ever made 7 out of 10. Their ranking system
Yeah,
sucks. It is your 7 out of 10, your 3.5 stars, which is always you'll enjoy it, you remember parts of it, but it won't sit in the top echelon. I think that's what 7 10 means to me.
yeah, I'd agree. And to go further into it, and sort of leads into what it is. It's like, would I have paid full price for this game and still given it a 7 out of 10? I think because I got it obviously I got it for free as part of Games of Gold. So effectively, what's that? $10. If you factor in like the cost for the month of gold back in the day, now inflation's a bit different.
Yeah, I think it was 80
I
bucks
think
a
it's
year when we were subscribed.
yeah. So it's definitely worth it. You can pick it up, which I think Mitch, you're got a few information about that, don't you?
Yeah, so if you've enjoyed our discussion about this or you're interested in it, even though we just spoiled half of it, um, if you want to play it, here's how you can play it. We obviously got it with Games of Gold back in the day, so it's sitting in our library for a while. Um, however, I on our own sheet I blanked this because I wanted to see your live reaction to it. Through the Xbox and PlayStation Store, so the definitive edition, they're the Xbox One re-release and the PS4 re-release. Granted, we are looking at the PS3, Xbox 360 game, but we're going to play it in the best possible capacity that we can. So with those, $40 at the moment, no sale. Would I spend $40
Okay.
on it? No, I'd reckon.
No, I wouldn't.
I'm sure you'd find a sale on it at some point. On Steam, normal retail price is 26.95. You could Steam, you could get that on a half price. I think I've seen the game on like 80 to 90% off sales before. So if you see
Oh,
it
if you could pick,
for a tenner,
yeah, for like $1, 10, even $10, I'd spend $10 on that
yeah,
game.
a
I
tenner.
agree.
eBay, if you want the OG PS3 Xbox 360 copy, you're looking around $10 with shipping, without shipping. It floats around $10 for the original hardware there. And I saw a little tidbit here. I saw this package on eBay. It is, I think, from America, but PS3, it's region free. You can play wherever. Let me know what you think of this. It's called the Ultimate Action Triple Pack. Comes with Sleeping Dogs, Just Cause 2, and Tomb Raider for $28.
Which Tomb Raider? Like the first remake one that came
Yeah,
out
yeah, the 360 PS3 on.
for $28?
In a cool Ultimate Action Triple Pack. You getting good action there?
I reckon.
Yeah.
Just Cause 2 is a goat game,
28
and
bucks
the
for a cool
first Tomb
package
Raider's good.
of the three. I saved that. I wanted to bring it up. I thought it was cool. But
That's a nice find actually. Yeah, I would spend $30 actually on those three games.
yeah, even just the pack. So
Yeah.
7 out of 10 from Poorly Played here. We recommend it, worth a shot. Persist through it. You're looking anywhere between 11 to 15 hours to do the story and a whole bunch of side stuff. Now, we don't just play these games. This is our book club. We talk about this. We just want to highlight very briefly here what else we've been playing, because we obviously play other games. So I'll go first. 3 games I've been playing this month. Obviously, little bits of here and there, but these are the main 3. Evil West was made, included on PS Plus, or it was the PS Plus game of the month. So I've been tearing through Evil West, which is probably pretty appropriate because it is a linear level based, just run through, shoot your objective, very reminiscent of the PS3 360 era. I'm having a great time with that. Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. With the new Prince of Persia coming out, it got me on my spell of like, let's finally play through some of this original trilogy and catch up on some of it. So I've been playing through the Sands of Time on my Steam Deck. It's been really enjoyable. You can definitely see like the roots of Assassin's Creed in that franchise there. Frequent save points, somewhat challenging platforming. No, not really, not challenging platforming. It's pretty easy actually. And some of the combat can have cool different enemy types as well. And I'm trying to churn through Baldur's Gate 3 still. That is a big game. And some of the combat has been shitting me. And I played a bit at the start of the month, and then I've sort of paid it off because there's one combat instance that it's either I run away and don't talk to this bloke, or I have to fight him and get fucked on. So I'm trying to get through that as well. What's been on your radar, or what you've been playing?
Well, the main game I've been playing is I finally got a PlayStation 5 with the new Slim console release that's come out. So I've been churning through a bit of that backlog that I've been waiting on. The main one's Spider-Man Miles Morales. As I really start to set my eyes on finishing that, which should be pretty soon,
Nice.
and getting into Spider-Man 2 is
Nice.
the goal, because I am so keen to play Spider-Man. PS4 was easily one of the defining games of the PS4 Xbox One era, and I'm really enjoying Miles Morales. I love Miles Morales as a character, and I'm enjoying a different sort of spin on it. It's like a snowy New York.
It's cool, isn't it?
Christmas time. It's really fun. Some of the enemies, which we've spoken about sort of off podcast, like a bit annoying to deal with, but that's okay. I think I think I'm playing on the hardest difficulty.
Yeah.
Because I'm a masochist sometimes, but really enjoying it. I haven't really gotten that far through the game because I think with Sleeping Dogs, because it was a massive, bit of a haul just to finish the main story. I'm really just enjoying taking Spider-Man quite slow and just the web swinging. Like, everyone knows how good the web swinging is in those games if you've played it.
What is the
And
fast
with the
travel system in that
PS5,
game? Like, what is fast travel? Yeah.
it's the subway system, isn't it? Like,
Why would you take that?
I don't know. Why would you take that exactly? Like, there's so many random events that happen in just a way that's just adds to the world in Spider-Man. But everyone knows about Spider-Man, so I don't have to keep harping on about. I dipped my fingers or my toes into Pal World uh, over the weekend after I'd finished Sleeping Dogs to see what all the fuss was about. And I don't want to go too in depth in it because I didn't like it that much. Very Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wildy mixed with a bit of Fortnite, sort of actually more like Ark Survival Evolved,
Yeah.
which I could take to. I looked into Palwood because I'm a huge fan of the Pokemon franchise, and I have been a bit disappointed with their releases over the last fucking decade at this point. So I thought I'd give it a go, and then once again, Mitch and I were talking off podcast, and he mentioned that what was it, level 45 before you get a gun or something. You said to me the other
You get an
day, like,
assault rifle at level 45, a pistol at level 25, and I'm level 6, and I was playing for about
yeah,
an hour and a bit.
same. Like I was like, okay, I got my ass destroyed by this huge mammoth thing the second I walked out of the door. Killed the one of the NPCs that's supposed to be like the tutorial guide for you too. I was like, oh, I'll come back to it. Maybe I can get a few of the boys on, play a bit of like an open worldy, everyone playing. Like we should give it that a go, see if it's different with friends. But single player,
It just, yeah,
not that fast.
I didn't
It's
enjoy
alright.
it either.
It's alright. But I'm a big fan of having fidget games, and I think you're a bit like this too, Mitch, with your Steam Deck and things like that. Things that just when you don't want to sit down and like jump into a Sleeping Dogs or play whatever else, like a Spider Man or something. You just want to sit in bed, muck around. I've been playing Yu Gi Oh! 2004 World Championship on my phone. Uh, just absolutely powering through that because I love Yu Gi Oh! and the games in particular. And it's actually turns like 20 this year, and I have very fond memories of us playing as kids.
Great game.
And just been revisiting it, and I've actually really been enjoying it.
Before Yu-Gi-Oh
Um,
went weird, and I don't know how to play it anymore.
yeah, nah, goat format for the win. That's the OG stuff. But
Is
yeah, I
that
had
just
one bit
through a ROM?
moment. It was just through on,
Yeah.
yeah, just um like I you own the cartridge, good enough. That's how I see it. Like
Yeah.
I play it, and I want to share this. Like it was quite serendipitous moment I had playing the game where I remember playing it back as a kid, even probably just on my laptop or whatever back in the day, and I used to use Cybertech Alligator. I don't know if you remember that card, Mitch,
Yeah,
as my
roughly.
ace card. It's a 2500 attack 5-star monster, so it's a one tribute. And just I was like, oh, hang on, I'll put this in my deck because it sort of pairs well with things I was trying to do versing certain enemies in the game. And next thing I know, I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. I just had this flush of nostalgia that washed over me where I remember using that card as like my beat stick back in the day. And I was like, oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
I'm old now, but it was very fun to jump back into it. And that's what I've been playing.
Nice. That's good to hear. That's why we do it as well. We want to play new, old, get nostalgia, but also new stuff and experience everything. That's why this podcast is here. Um,
Hmm, hmm.
First part of the year, we've gone a bit long. People have heard us talk a while. Thank you for sticking with us if you're still with us. We'll just
Yeah,
quickly get
yeah.
through, start of 2024. Just give us a few games that you're looking forward to this year.
Yeah, Indiana Jones. Like,
Looks
holy
cool.
shit.
Looks cool.
Looks cool. First person. I don't know how they'll go with that, but I'm actually kind of glad they went that way because we've seen a lot of that third person survival, like Tomb Raider esque. It's time to flip it up.
Well, it's Machine
Um,
Games who made Wolfenstein and have experience with first person
oh, it
games.
is too, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I reckon it's gonna be a good game. I genuinely think it's gonna be a bit of fun. Famous last words. The other one is Destiny 2, the final shape, the final expansion pack for that game's coming out.
Final.
I'm very yep, final. After that one's done, Destiny 2's finished.
All right.
So good time to get on the raids with me, Mitch, and finish those up
No, not gonna
if we ever get to. And
happen.
fair enough. And the last one's Space Marine 2. Big fan of the Warhammer 40k universe, particularly the games more than anything. So I want to see how that turns up. But what are you looking after, Mitch? What are you looking out for?
I got onto Hades very late, and I had a great time playing it, especially on like a handheld. I played it on Switch, but now I've got my Steam Deck. Hades 2 on Steam. It'll be early access. I'm anticipating this year, but I'll still jump on, and that is one of my most fun roguelites that I've played. So Hades 2, I'm keen on. Um, I've always had my eye on Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. I've always
Hmm.
heard that it is one of the GameCube's shining light games. If you want a physical copy of it, I hope you have a spare $500 to spend on it. So dreams of owning
Wow.
it physically, it would never existed. I have maybe partaken in getting some ROMs for it, but never actually sat down and played it. But then they announced a remake for Switch, so I'll pay my
Hmm.
$60
That's
on
cool.
Amazon. I have a physical copy on the Switch, and I'll actually see what Paper Mario and Thousand Year Door is like. I've played the Mario and Luigi Brothers on DS, 3DS, which is sort of like similar turn-based combat. So I'm keen to see what that is like. Stalker 2, if it comes out, it's been delayed, what, 3, 4 years now, something like that, I think. But
Okay.
that Fallouty vibe, open world post-apocalyptic, it looks cool. I think it's still in some trouble with all the war. So they get the studio's based in Ukraine.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we'll
Okay.
see what actually
Damn.
happens there. But it is a Game Pass game. It'll be day and date when it comes out. So all I have to do is download it. And the last one, I've stuck a fourth one in there, and I'm surprised that you didn't bring this one up. Star
I
Wars
forgot about
Outlaws.
it.
Star Wars Outlaws. Come on, it's got to be like one of the most hyped games of the year. Um,
No, it is. When I saw you had written it down, I'm like, oh yeah. But
yeah,
I'll let you talk about it.
some open worldy Star Wars made by Ubisoft. Let's go. Let's go. I'm keen. I'll just play it. I'll get it. I'll wait for some footage. Um, but they're my main games. I actually find it's a bit light on this year. I've seen some people
It
anticipated
is.
some other games, but I actually think it's the other way around. There's not a lot. So
I had a look through like sort of the big announced games, and with the exception of sort of what like sort of I wrote down, a couple of what you've written down, I'm like, oh, bit of a slow game here. Watch
yeah,
them. I mean, there's no E3s anymore, but watch them surprise release
yeah,
some
they'll
sort of
still
like
drop some
hectic.
stuff. Yeah, but a
Yeah.
great time to get through some of these games that we got on our backlog. Um,
Hmm.
Now to finish off the episode, we're going to announce our February game of the month. So if you've somehow stumbled across this podcast and made it to this point, um, through our rambling. Again, thank you. But this is the point where you can jump on, play the game with us, and then join in for our discussions on the next podcast. Um, February's game of the month, and I'll say how you can get it here right now rather than waiting until after we've talked about it. This game is available on EA Play, so if you're an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, you can get it. Um, this game, if you EA Play and you go on PlayStation or PC, subscribe through that, you can get it. I think ordinarily it's around $50 now at retail. You can get older copies. We're going to be playing the remake of this game, so you probably start to piece together what it is, made by EA, remake, all that. I think it came out in 2008, 2009, but we're going to be playing the remake version because, again, there is a newer version of it. Why the hell don't we just play that? We're going to
Mm-hmm.
be playing Dead Space for February. So, looking towards the end of February, having Dead Space finished and completed. You looking forward to Dead Space, John?
I am. I've played a little bit of it, like a couple of hours back in the day, and I shit my pants. So I'm excited being into as bit old, knowing that video games are one thing. I actually have switched my tone. I enjoy horror games now more than I used to, so I'm keen to get back into this with a completely fresh attitude towards it.
Yeah,
So
I'm pretty
cool.
sure it holds the tone and similar gameplay. Like, if it was a complete reimagining, I would say no, we're not doing the new one. We're going to go back to the OG game. But from what I've heard and all reports, it is just a refreshed remake. So not a remaster, complete remake, but still close enough to the core game that we can say it is still a product of that PS3 360 era that we're looking at.
Hmm. Hmm. Ah, cool.
All right,
I
any
guess that concludes the first one, doesn't it?
yeah, any closing thoughts?
Oh, subscribe to Poorly Played on YouTube. That's the other one. But
Um,
no, once again, thank you for listening to the podcast. It's something where Mitch brought to me just before the end of last year, and we realized, hang on, that's a great idea to become a bit of a book club, games club at the end of the day.
Commits you
So
to a
if you have
game,
any,
locks you in.
yep, rocks in. If you made it this far, if you have any comments, thoughts, anything, please leave them in the comments. We take all feedback on. That's all really for me.
And all from me. Thank you for listening to Poorly Played. We'll see you next time.
All right, have a good one.